Hey, this is Tony Ross for CreativeCow.net, and in this lesson we're going to be doing a little more advanced lesson of the pencil drawing a line. We're going to be using a motion guide layer as well as we're going to be using masking, but we're not going to be using shape twins. We're actually going to be handling the mask pretty much manually just to have a little more control over it. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and create our layers here. We're going to change layer 1. We're going to call this simply line. And I'm going to create a new layer. Go to this little icon right here to insert a new layer. And the second layer we're going to simply call mask. And create another layer. This layer is going to be called pencil. And one more layer, and this is going to be called guide. Alright. Now, first thing we're going to go ahead and do is let's select our line layer, just in that first keyframe there, and we're going to go to our pencil tool, and we're going to set the stroke. We've got a nice little pencil gray here, and make sure we're using our little pencil stroke line. And as far as the pencil mode, I want to make sure this is set to ink. We have a little more control over exactly what we want it to look like. I'm just going to do just a really free-form line here. Looks pretty decent. Hey, I got that on the first try. Good for Tony. Alright, next thing I want to do is go ahead and going to select this. I'm just going to click right here on this keyframe, and I'm going to copy. It's going to be Command-C, and that's Control-C on a PC. And then I want to go up to our guide layer and select this frame. Now, what we want to do is paste in place. We don't want to do a normal paste. We're going to do a paste in place, which is Command-Shift-V. That's Control-Shift-V on the PC. So, Command-Shift and V. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take all of our frames and we're going to extend them all the way out to frame 36. Okay, so I'm going to click on the guide layer in frame 36, hold down my Shift key, and click on the line layer in frame 36, so that selects all those frames, and we're going to simply enter some frames here. So press F5. Alright, so we have that set, and the next thing I want to do is I want to select my pencil layer. And I'm not going to redraw the pencil. Actually, I still have that from the last time. So I'm going to come over here to the library and just simply drag this out onto the stage. Alright. And go to our free transform tool and move our transform center right to the tip of the pencil. And we also want to kind of go ahead and bend this up right. Looks good. And what I want to do is move circle so it's right on the line here. Okay, now I'm going to go to about frame 30 and we're going to insert a keyframe. Selecting that, I'm going to simply press F6. Now I'm going to move our little pencil right down here to the end. And I'm going to rock this way. Alright, now I do want to go back to frame 1 of our pencil layer. And here I'm going to make this look like it's actually coming out of the distance, so I want the pencil up here to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to hold down my Shift key so I can scale this in proportion and click and drag that down. Looks pretty decent. Okay, now next thing I want to do is I want to set this actual guide to a motion guide layer, and I'm going to use a little trick to pull that off. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simply right click on the icon here and set it to guide. Now what a guide is, it's pretty much not going to be visible if you export the SWF. So we could have notes here, we could have rough sketches, anything you want, but it doesn't actually export with the SWF. It's not visible, and it also does not add to the file size. Now, what a motion guide is, on the other hand, is what we're going to be using and have the pencil follow this exact same line. So the way we're going to turn this guide into a motion guide is we're going to simply click on our pencil layer, and we're going to click and push up until we see the guide layer actually highlight. Let go of our mouse, and if you notice, the icon is now changed. This is now a motion guide layer. Okay, the next thing you want to do is on our pencil layer, anywhere between the two keyframes we've set, we're going to right click or control click and create a motion tween. Okay, so if we scrub back and forth, we notice this is actually following that line perfectly, which is what we want. Okay, let's animate this a little bit more. On frame 1, I'm going to kind of use our little rotation tool there and our transformation tool and have that tilt a little bit more. And we're going to scrub forward until we get to the corner, about right here. I'm going to select this frame, insert a keyframe, F6, and I'm going to have this kind of bend this way. Now I'm over-exaggerating this because that's going to really help push the animation. So I'm going to go all the way here, find the next corner, about right there. I'm going to select this frame, enter another keyframe, F6, and I'm going to pull this over here and go all the way here. And I think I do want to pull this just a little bit further. Okay, so now when we kind of scrub this, let's get a little more action going on. All right, that's set. All right, so we can do this. Let's go ahead and lock our guide layer, lock our pencil layer, and we're going to go ahead and lock our line layer. Now, fun part. This is going to be a little bit tedious, but trust me, it's going to actually be really worth it. We're going to be setting up our mask layer, and we're going to do this manually. We're not going to use any tweens to do this. So I'm going to select our rectangle tool, and I don't want a stroke on this. I'm just going to grab a basic little gray here, and what I want to do, make sure I'm on the right layer, is kind of click and pull a rectangle. And this is kind of snapping a little bit too much for me right now, so what I want to do is I'm going to go over here and turn off snapping just by clicking on our little magnet there. Okay, so I'm going to select that first frame, and I'm going to go to my free transform tool, just click once, and let's go back to this frame, click again, and I'm going to simply press F6. Now, this has added another keyframe on our mask layer, and if you notice, we're a little bit further ahead as far as where the pencil is. So the only thing I'm going to do is move this a little bit further and cover exactly how far the lead is supposed to be being revealed. If you remember, everywhere the mask is going, that's the only part that will be showing up. So we'll do F6 again, move this further ahead, F6, further ahead, and I'm going to keep this going. And if you notice, I'm making sure I'm covering up most of the pencil because there are weird little artifacts that will happen if we don't do that. Let's do F6 again. I'm going to pull this all the way out here. F6 again. So again, wherever I can cover up all of the pencil, I do. F6. Now, The reason this kind of works out is the reason we can still see the line. You got to remember the guide, even though it's not going to show up in the final version, we're looking at that on top right now, so that's how we can, it's actually literally being a guide for us right now. Let's do F6 again. All right. Some of these are going to be a little easier than others because we're just pulling straight down. And again, this may seem a little tedious, but trust me, it's well worth it. If we try to do like a shape tween or even turn this rectangle into a symbol and did a motion tween, there's a large chance that there'd be parts that we had to go back and tweak. So it's kind of, I'd rather go manually on this. Okay, almost there. Okie dokie. You can almost smell the pencil lead. Yeah, it's cheesy, but hey, someone's got to say it. Okie dokie. So now we're down to our final frame there. It looks pretty decent. And, well, this isn't going to quite work yet because this is called mask, but guess what? It's not a mask. So let's go ahead and right-click on here and set it to mask. Now, we're thinking, hey, this is a mask and we're kind of scrubbing, but everything's still there. Well, guess what? It's because the guide layer is still visible. So I'm going to click on our little visibility here and turn that off. Okay? So if I scrub this, it's like, hey, that looks pretty decent. Looks like we got it straight. Let's check it for real. I'm going to simply do Command Return and Control Enter on PC. And there you have it. It's a little more complex, and as you see, that little tedious masking really does come in handy. It looks pretty decent there. Alright, this has been Tony Ross for CreativeCow.net, and remember, make it simple and keep it perfect.